The scream was faint, at first barely a trembling echo down the empty school corridor, yet it sliced straight through the silence like a blade. The billionaire, Adrian Cole, had only intended to drop by his daughter's school without warning, hoping to surprise her with lunch and steal a few precious moments from his impossible schedule. But the moment he stepped inside the polished hallway, something felt wrong. His footsteps slowed as the sound grew clearer, sharper, and heartbreakingly familiar. Then he saw her, his little girl, huddled against the cold brick wall, her face buried behind trembling hands, the backpack beside her abandoned like a forgotten promise. In that instant, Adrian's world didn't just crack, it shattered. If you believe every child deserves love, kindness, and second chances, kindly like, comment, share, and subscribe to support stories that remind the world what truly matters. Adrian stood frozen, struck by the sight of his daughter, Lily, sobbing alone in the hallway. She was usually bright, spirited, always ready to greet him with wide arms and the biggest smile. But today, her tiny shoulders shook with every breath, her cheeks blotched and wet, her dress wrinkled from sliding down the wall as though she had collapsed under the weight of something unbearable. Everything in Adrian's life, every business deal, every shareholder meeting, every boardroom victory felt meaningless in comparison to this moment. His mind raced, panic closing around his chest as he wondered what could have possibly broken her like this. He knelt beside her quietly, the echoes of his expensive shoes swallowed by the thick silence of the hallway. The school was nearly empty, classes in session, and the emptiness made the scene feel even colder, even harder to swallow. A billionaire, powerful enough to influence industries and economies, felt utterly powerless in front of his crying child. Lily lifted her head slowly, her tear-filled eyes widening when she saw him, and the way. She collapsed into him, shaking uncontrollably, told him everything. She felt unsafe, she felt alone, and she had kept it hidden from him, maybe because she was afraid to burden him, or maybe because she didn't think he had time to listen. That realization stabbed him deeper than any business failure ever could. As Adrian wrapped his arms around her, feeling her tears soak into his tailored shirt, flashes of the past few months rushed through his mind, moments he brushed off as regular childhood behavior, small things he dismissed because he trusted the school, trusted the teachers, trusted the world to treat her gently. Lily had become quieter, slower to smile, always clinging a little too tightly at drop-off. Sometimes she hesitated before entering the school gates, but she would force a brave smile for him. He convinced himself she was simply adjusting, that all children had phases. He had been so wrong. He carried her gently to a nearby bench and sat her on his lap, letting her hiccup through her tears while he stroked her back and whispered comforts that sounded weak even to his own ears. She clutched his collar as though she feared he might disappear, and that was when he noticed the faint bruising near her elbow, small, but unmistakable. His jaw clenched. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't some harmless playground scuffle. Someone had hurt her. The hallway felt suffocating now. The fluorescent lights flickered softly, the faint echoes of distant classroom chatter drifting in and out like a ghost of normalcy. Adrian stared ahead, fury building like a storm behind his eyes. He was known in the business world for his calm, controlled demeanor, the kind of man who could dismantle an entire corporation with one strategic decision. But now, the rage he felt was raw, unfiltered, and deeply human. He tried to ask her what happened, speaking gently, afraid his anger might scare her. Lily sniffled, her small voice trembling as she explained between sobs. It wasn't just one thing, it had been happening for weeks. A group of kids had been bullying her, shoving her in hallways, taking her belongings, mocking her for her clothes, her drawings, her soft voice, even calling her a little princess in a cruel, twisted way because they had heard adults whispering about her father's wealth. The thing that hurt Adrian the most was that she had told a teacher, and the teacher had done nothing. His blood ran cold as she spoke, each word carving itself into his heart like a brand. He had sent her to one of the most prestigious schools in the city, believing money ensured safety, believing quality could be bought. But kindness couldn't, protection couldn't, and now he had failed her in ways he couldn't forgive himself for. He lifted her gently, holding her close as he stood. The bench, the hallway, the lockers, all of it blurred into the background as his focus narrowed to one thing, fixing this, protecting her, ensuring no child, not just his, ever faced something like this again. He carried her straight toward the administration office, his posture tall, steady, though on the inside he was unraveling. The receptionist looked startled at the sight of him, and even more startled when she saw Lilith's red, tear-streaked face. Adrian spoke calmly at first, but his voice held a razor-sharp edge beneath the surface. He demanded to speak to the principal immediately. The room grew tense, whispers spread quickly, and within minutes the principal hurried out, adjusting her blazer nervously. She greeted him with rehearsed politeness, unaware that this was not a routine conversation, not even close. Adrian explained what he found, each word controlled but heavy with anger. He watched her face shift from concern to discomfort, then to something that infuriated him more than anything: avoidance. She tried to offer excuses. Minimizing phrases like "kids will be kids" and "misunderstandings happen" made his stomach churn. The final blow came when she implied Lily might have been sensitive or misinterpreting things. That was when something snapped. Adrian stood tall, his expression hard and unwavering. He spoke with the kind of authority that didn't need volume to be terrifying. He told her he had given this school millions in donations, expected nothing in return except safety for every child, and now he realized even that had been too much to ask. He informed her that he would be pulling Lily out immediately, and warned that if the school continued to dismiss bullying, he would make sure every parent in the district knew exactly how their concerns were handled. The principal's face lost color, but for Adrian, it wasn't about revenge. It was about justice, prevention, and change. He left the office holding Lily's hand, her small fingers gripping his tightly, as though clinging to a lifeline, and he promised her softly as they walked out the school doors that she would never have to return to a place that made her feel so small, so scared, so alone. Once they were in the car, Lily leaned against him, exhausted from crying. Adrian stroked her hair, realizing that this moment, painful as it was, could be the turning point not just for her, but for him. He had spent years believing that providing a luxurious life was enough. He gave her everything money could buy, except time, except presence, except the reassurance that he was always there when she needed him most. Sitting there with her asleep in his arms, he vowed to change. Over the next few days, Adrian rearranged his schedule entirely. Meetings were canceled, responsibilities delegated. He was at home, more really home, not half present with his phone in hand. He had breakfast with Lily, helped her pick out her outfits, sat with her as she drew her pictures. Slowly, that bright spark in her eyes began to return, like a sunrise breaking through weeks of darkness. But he didn't stop there. Adrian used his influence to create an initiative dedicated to anti-bullying and child safety, not just in elite schools, but in every public school willing to participate. Workshops, awareness programs, mental health support, training for teachers. He funded it all, and he didn't do it quietly. He spoke openly about what Lily went through, reminding the world that wealth didn't shield anyone from pain, and that every child, no matter who they were, deserved protection, compassion, and a safe place to learn. Lily eventually transferred to a new school, a smaller one, warmer, with teachers who valued kindness as much as academics. On her first day, she hesitated at the gates again, but this time when she looked back, Adrian was right beside her, holding her hand. She smiled nervously, and he smiled back, promising he would stay as long as she needed. And he did. Over the months that followed, Lily flourished. She made friends, real friends. She came home with stories, drawings, excitement. The bruises faded, the fear dissolved, and the little girl who once cried alone in a hallway laughed again. Adrian watched her grow, grateful for every second, knowing he had almost missed the chance to be a real father. And though the memory of that day still haunted him, he chose to see it not as a moment of failure, but as the day he finally woke up to what being a parent truly meant. If this story touched your heart, or reminded you of the importance of protecting every child, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more meaningful stories to life.